Hi, what is up? How's it going today? How is it happening today? Huh? This is a episode of Pancake Marathon of, I think boundaries are something absolutely of an essential part of everything. Simply to say, they truly, truly are. They truly, truly are. And in and of itself, you know, if you been an active part of this podcast because somehow you find that you're done being like Batman, essentially, to complain and to force somebody to work a program and not work on yourself and be religious, acting like someone's gonna come save you, even though it's almost in a sense that Batman uh, does a spiritual approach in the sense of coming or being the one, right? And yet their approach is just like an alpha. And in the sense of what an alpha is fear mongering and controlling every single aspect of the narrative and don't really care what you think. They don't. They're neurotic. They're a narcissist, basically. A Sigma, oh my gosh, talk about top shelf. Talk about they are amazing, magnanimous, and where it's at, essentially. Because a Sigma, the true leader, in a sense of itself, the meek, you're only as strong as your weakest link. And how is a Sigma going to outrank in that sense of an alpha? Oh, because a leader, you're only as strong as your weakest link, will have humility and say, "Oh, well, I'm here. I'm kind of showing you, how I'm doing it, and you go ahead. If you like what I have to offer, then go for it. If not, that's cool too, right? But I'll be here when if you're not going to essentially, be encouraged to become your own leader, essentially. And so that's why the Joker truly is the real hero, basically, in and of itself. Because, you know, some can only interpret and are ready for the teacher of a word, essentially. And some need the whole entire sentence, and some just need silence. Read the room, essentially, right? Um, and yet, it's always imperative, essentially, to carry a message, right? That there is hope and all these things, that there's a future out there where you're not actively using, right? Where you are prioritizing doing something upon being productive because you get to. You don't have to do anything. Yet, it's about changing your approach, essentially. Your attitude will always set you free. Mental or physical can be a prison, but your attitude sets you free. And so it's how you approach it. It is truly about living it better than you found it. Absolutely. You know, to to keep on trying and find unity and all these things, right? Um, Especially when you get to the point of being good for you, you can be good for others. Yes, in your beginning stages of or the phase of your development. And so, simply to say boundaries are pretty much everything. And another way of, communicating what boundaries are, because you have no context, which is in a sense of itself the definition, um, agreed upon things upon itself, even in yourself, of a personal agreement, because that's pretty much what recovery is. And if you have ever heard or read that of the four agreements, that quite clearly states that it's a personal agreement. That's what it is. You know, and recovery essentially upon itself is just your personal agreement of you agreeing to that of simply to say, how are you going to take the action upon becoming good for you to be good for others, right? And so that's why I really do get these days that boundaries, are everything. And when you expand on, as what I attempted to say earlier, of what is the principle or the context, which is still the same as your principle of what you're going with. You're standing for something because you're not going to fall for anything, basically. And so, um, as it simply can be stated in another way of looking at it, of a fundamental element, right? And so, depending on how you look at it, it's all the same. Truly, truly, it is. Yet, one of the key aspects in just life itself and in recovery, you know, in recovery means when you're learning, essentially, on how to, we could say, preach, or be preached at, right? Because you're getting restored back to sanity. You're being reminded, right, of your self-worth and all these things. Maybe finding your voice for the first time, or maybe just reclaiming your voice, a peace of mind, essentially serenity, a non-judgmental state, serenity, you know getting out of that mental gymnastics that you, oh my goodness, like I do it all the time, essentially, um and so, and going back to what I was saying and saying it now, that of, if you were, heard the previous episodes in this podcast, you would hear, you know, the progression of, being happy, sad, or, and then sad, happy, or whatever it may be, simply to say. And that's why I know boundaries are everything. And trust in your higher power is everything. Trust in your own understanding to get to a point to be able to stop trying to change the outside, for one, because that's what you did when you used. You took outside things to help you feel good on the inside. That's not real life, per se. That's not how real things change. Of simply to say, where the real world, where the trees produce oxygen, opposed to that of the outside world, society, and agreed upon things that are not necessarily universal truths and are just that of what is a quote that can develop into a metaphor upon that of, oh my goodness, what is it called? It's a P. What's a P thing called? Paradox? No. It's like a phrase. Oh my goodness. Oh, I don't recall at this moment. I really got to look it up. Give me just a moment. Huh? It's a proverb, essentially. And for those that like to know the context of things and where I get this from is, so a quote is that can be a universal truth, yet it's someone's opinion on what's going on in the modern day means. A metaphor is basically where you start stretching into time length, basically, of what is now going from a quote, common sense, the one word phrased, how it used to be, basically, to more of a modern day means of itself, of how common sense is now two words, essentially. And that of, you are trying to have, like an agnostic, right? That something's out there, but you don't know how it fits into your life. And you say you're just basically asking questions and all that kind of stuff. And what I mean by the time length aspect is that a proverb it used to be a quote and then moved into, yes, a metaphor, to that of now still being known as a cliche, but still reigns true, basically. And it's closer conveyance to that of a universal truth, because why else keep saying something, right? Because you really don't shut the door on the past. That's kind of silly too, in actuality, there's points of those in life that act like they did and act like they could say they destroyed it, but we all know that they didn't. Why would they? That's insanity. That is absolute insanity. Why would you work harder? What? Why would you work harder? That makes no sense. It really doesn't. You know why? I get the motivation and the intention behind that to make others work harder. Like for instance, taking the engine from the bottom of the car. Now we have no ability, in the sense of saying, to utilize our free time because we have so many other things that are distracting us. Essentially, absolutely. And that's why I know boundaries and self-respect, and which is really self-care, are important, and a trust and love in a higher power, because your higher power will never tell you you're nothing. It will be there when you're at moments of saying, I am nothing, this storm is so big, and I just don't know how to, communicate to you that the storm is so big. Can you just make it stop? Which is really funny in a sense of saying, what if it was your higher power that did all this? Right? Simply to say. And that's one reason why controlling too much is too much. Don't future trip yourself into an anxiety, or that it pass yourself into depression. All of this stuff. It's now moment. It's about, the term in recovery is strength. The now moment, the power moment, the God moment. Moment of silence, right? Stillness upon itself. And stillness is not stagnation. It's a moment of bringing forth clarity. It's almost like the law of attraction, simply to say. The easiest way to comprehend the law of attraction, do it how you can rest, in an hour, basically, right? 5 minutes of that hour, focus everything that you want and hate, or whatever it may be, upon that thing, simply to say. And then the rest of the 55 minutes, do whatever else other than what you were supposed to do in that 5 minutes, right? And then the next hour comes. Same thing, the 5 minutes, everything. And then the next 55 minutes, do whatever else. It doesn't even matter. Honestly, just don't, essentially, while you were approaching that way, you're letting go and letting God. You're not trying to control too much. You're not essentially stilling or taking the aspect of your higher power job to that of simply saying, you're giving time, right? And then if you focus on something so much, you're just overdoing it. You're obsessing about it. And now you're creating your past into your future, which is no future at all. And then if you have no future at all, you don't even have a past at that point. You just have misery. And then you want some company because you don't know how to be okay with being by yourself at that point. You don't know how to love yourself and respect yourself and have some self-care, right? I mean, isolation can totally turn into self-care. It can. And then the same thing of self-care can totally turn into isolation, both in a quick, fleeting, if not forever, even though it's a temporary thing like happiness and sadness, basically, because it's about the approach and, essentially, to say that, that's why foundation's everything. I know how many times I've built a foundation on quicksand, and I didn't even notice I was sinking because I was looking everywhere else but where I'm at, As so, that's why boundaries are everything. Because that's essentially what you're doing. Like in recovery terms or resting, your incomprehensible demoralization, right? And the incomprehensible part, in a sense of saying, is why relying on a higher power is everything. Because they understand it all, right? It's like that movie Serenity. The very last scene, when the one character says to the other character, I already know you know what I'm going to say, so I'm not going to even say it. And that character says, this is true, but I like to hear you say it. And that's how I like to think of a higher power, essentially. They already know what's going on, but they want you to get there. They're a leader. They're the meek. If you have free will, they can't stop you. Essentially to say, in the sense of how you can be stopped physically or whatever it may be of your, the context, your principle your expectations and what you've been told how to think, essentially, or the moments of your clarity on how these things are absolute upon itself and it's your truth, right? Absolute. Um, and yet, you know, no one really has the right to God shame you, not even yourself, right? You're at that understanding of where you were at. Okay, it happened. Okay, now it's time to get past, right? So you don't be miserable. So you can leave it better than you found it. And it's about working on yourself and putting the work in, essentially to manifest the life that you want. Okay, so you rest these thoughts, right? Of demoralization. It's the pain, the addiction that you're holding on to. It's time to let go, in a sense, right? But you don't know how. You're trying to figure it out. And that's why it's incomprehensible if you don't practice the principles in all your affairs. What are the principles? How it works, like the steps, essentially, the traditions of why everyone can work together, right? And the promises, simply to say. And so you arrest, you put it to name, you bind it, you bound it, you give it a place out of your head, basically, so you can actually focus on the whole thing, right? Because unless you're really just sitting down, and even then, right? That's why it's so crucial to write things down, in a sense of getting it out of your head, so that you don't have to take the same energy and effort, in the sense of itself, to have to rethink about something. And then when you make the decision, you're like, oh man, I forgot about this fact, and I would have never done it, right? Because you have a lot going on, It's a tool, right? Use it. It's like AI, right? Oh my god, AI, it's going to take over the world. And it's going to essentially, be like the Terminator. Okay, for one, everything's possible. It's not like it's an incomprehensible thing, because incomprehensible is not a paradox upon itself. It's not another way of saying stoppable is just another way of saying unstoppable, because unstoppable is just another way of saying stoppable. It is. It's true. It's like the same thing when somebody says, oh, Sandra doesn't exist. It's like, can't you didn't you just say the word? So, and you can so in some way, shape, and form, it does exist. Maybe not your context or your principle, your fundamental element of how you understand things, because you're just looking at it one-sided. You're looking at it as a religious, in a sense of saying. Because, there is steps, or in recovery, it's religious and spiritual. Why is it religious? Because you're here to practice the principles, not perfect them. It's spiritual because you get to talk like you and recognize that perfection that you already are is there. And that's who you're going to make perfect, once again, or what it may be, or act upon that. But if you can't get to that point just yet, right, because you are where you're at, and that's cool, right? You only start where you're at. You can't start before or after. Even if you can, that's where you're at, right? Anywho, I'm just saying, because there's only the now moment, right? How is there only the now moment? Because there are many, countless memes, in a sense, of, a now moment. There's only one, but there's so many now moments. It just seems like it's a fluid state, but really it's a fractal every moment. Absolutely. And that's where the whole law of attraction thing comes into play, the whole 5 minutes to the 55. Absolutely. Because if, in a sense, if you can last forever, which energy does, right? And you don't have to do anything else, like what you do in this human experience, then that would make sense. To just focus it all on that and not have to take anything else, in a sense, right? But considering that's not realistic and very ridiculous upon itself, right? To the simple fact of the matter is that that's where the law of attraction really comes in. Because you're always, empowering something. It's not that you're not. You're always drawing something closer to you. And at the same sense, it's not that you're pushing anything away. It's that it's going away because you're making the room for the thing that you're focusing on. Simply to say. And so there's this aspect of, essentially, of boundaries. Like for me, in my in kind of what got me to talking about this or whatever maybe. Because yes, it's all about carrying the message, but it's also, it's how do I get to carry my message, right? And to give an update of what's going on, of why I was communicating in this communication aspect of whatever podcast it is, or episode in the podcast, to simply say, um, you know, so if you were following the other ones, where I was, it's true, I was heartbroken from the halfway house that I'm still at, but making progress away from at this point. Because I really don't believe what they have to stand for anymore. I don't. In a simple way of saying, when I was talking to my grandmother, they used you, quoting her, right? And they got what they needed, and now they're done with you. Okay. I mean, there's also that aspect of, the simplicity of they're doing things, and they're approaching it from a motivational standpoint, to where, in the sense of it, of those that are made it, they don't need that applause. The ones that are making it need the applause. And simply to say, um, it really does come down to the simple fact that in recovery, where you learn respect and all these things, right? Everyone deserves an applause, no matter what. And it's not that because I don't care to donate for a blanket. Keep your blanket. I don't care. I really don't care. Oh my goodness, I care about doing the right thing. I'm not here to get an instant reward. Everybody gets a trophy. So don't act like that was never a thing before. Just saying. Right? And so, and isn't that kind of communism? In a simple way of saying, of the whole fact of, did you really work for that blanket? No. Oh, you're doing something else and you're going to get something else out of it? Huh. Kind of like stocks. I'm just saying. But, anywho. So, going off of what I'm saying here, is, so, today I went to the office, right? To see if I have mail, because I can't get mail here where I'm at. Like, okay. Anywho. and at the same time, my microwave's not working. That's super fun. So I get to go over there because I want a microwave and I have not bought one yet. I'm just saying, you know, to the simple fact of, I also had to give the sponsor update because I do what I say. That's part of the deal. Okay, that's cool. Because I'm not basing my character off of anybody else. Because how often have I done that? It's so ridiculous. Of regardless, it's not ridiculous, but I'm just saying, of indicating the direction that I'm going with this in, right? So, I get there, and one of the staff members that are in the office, essentially, or part of the office, they're like, "Oh, are you gonna be here tomorrow?" And I'm like, yeah, and I don't think they picked up on that, because I said, there's points where I'm not gonna be here for the house meeting. Why would I care about that anymore? I'm so done with it, so done. And so I go into the office, and then they said, "Oh, you better be." Oh, okay. So then I go into the office because that's where it's the sponsor update is gonna pretty much happen. And so I walk, I do the whole thing, and I get my mail and everything like that. And then just to communicate, because that one in the office or whatever stated whatever they said, right? The one I just worded about. Okay, so the one in the office, I say, yeah, I'm going to do what I say I was going to do and go to the 12 o'clock meeting. But because I got my mail and I got this other stuff out of the way, I'm not coming for the house meeting. I don't care to, basically. And so, this is where I'm leading with the whole boundary thing. It's about self-respect. It's about, I'm not going to be, I'm done being abused by everything, anything, nothing. Just to cover all my bases, right? To the simple fact of it, right? Because I've been heartbroken, let down, and I'm done with that. they had their chance. They really did. And so the only reason I ever will go there, basically, is because I want to. I don't have to, and I can definitely go anywhere else to cheer a meeting. But, one of the fundamental elements of change or changing something is you have to be in it and not of it, right? Even though there's a whole saying, oh, gotta be of it, not in it, right? But to actually make a change, it's like the same concept of those are in the Illuminati or whatever. It's like, are you serious right now? It doesn't even matter. Stop, acting like a voting counts because they tell you it doesn't, right? The Electoral College. I'm just saying. But, you for real, it's like, what is going on right now? Are you that distracted? You need something to focus on? Make a change. Do something that's actually practical instead of being busy. Like, what is going on? Like, I get there's points to where you want to, just be on autopilot, but are you always on autopilot? Because, I don't know. You're not my people. You're not, yeah, okay. I value you. I'm not going to slap you in the face until you slap me in the face. And then, ooh, you woke that beast. It's a shame. You've already made your shank. I'm sure I know. I gave you fair warning and fair communications, so it's okay. But you're a keeper. Keep on going, because I'm not even going to care how much you make a shank for yourself, because you will. And then you're going to project that I'm still there. But really, you just realize I called you out on your BS. And so I'm going to use my BS, right, of being someone. Absolutely, because you being stupid has nothing to do with me. You had your chance. I'm just going to be the light for somebody else at this point. I tried, but I'm done. I don't want to lose hope, because I will if I keep on making myself miserable by your ability of BS, of being suppressed. So, anywho, to the simple fact of I'm going to do my BS these days of being a step taker. I'm just saying. Anywho, to the simple fact that those boundaries of just the realistic, looking at the whole thing, right? Because it's not that they used me, it's not that they didn't. It's not like it was wrong, because it's not, of how they approached it per se, because it's society wants an economic exchange, right? The money and all these things. Anywho, right? It's always about carrying a message. Absolutely. And so the ones that are here that they don't want it, whatever, it's about keeping the doors open, right? It's a business, right? Oh, okay. Even if it's a nonprofit, by definitions of a business, it's for profit. I'm just saying. Yeah. To simply say, because I am at that point where I am done with all of whatever it is, hearing all these things, and I become good for me. I don't need to rely on them anymore, in the sense of that. And so the only reason I ever would go there is for the microwave, for one, until I get one, because I'm not gonna keep doing that shit. That's ridiculous. Yeah, but anywho, and to carry a message of what recovery stands for and can be, and what I have to give. Other than that, I really don't believe in that halfway house's message anymore. I don't care what's happening behind the scenes, how they're going from a halfway house to a sober living thing. I don't care. I'm done with the abuse, and I've been physically, mentally, and verbally, and I've done it to myself by actively using. So I don't want to be abused in any way, shape, or form, and it's okay. And that's why I know peace of mind is everything, and reliance and communication and building that relationship with your higher power, everything. That's real trust right there. And that's why I know boundaries are everything. I don't deserve to take someone's peace of mind. I don't deserve or have the right to give mine away. And no one in the ladder of the same. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Right? Because that's why I know that no one's really out there to get me. They're just, need to eat today. I'm in their way, and they don't know how to get around faster. And then just, a straight line is a fastest way to get somewhere. Whatever. Point to point. The point being, anywho, one of the points being, in a sense of saying, is I have lost all faith in the message of that halfway house. I'm so done with it. I don't care what they're doing behind the scenes. You did not forget. You did not do it by accident. You quite literally threw me aside because you thought it was okay to. You forgot how kind, loving, and absolutely I went above and beyond to make sure that this place was great. But at this point, I don't need you anymore. Absolutely, I don't. So I'm not going to act like I care to do what you think is right. I don't care anymore. I don't want your recognition from you anymore. I don't care. I'm done with it. You know, like I said, I was heartbroken, devastated, absolutely dumbfounded. And as have I said before, and how I said it before, because I touched on it. The house manager, that's not in the office anymore, but still is as such, the house manager, said it's a mental thing, but they can help me in the recovery aspect. Okay. Even though the office is doing everything that peer support is supposed to be doing, considering the other peer support that was there did it all, and went to college, and had sponsees, and did their job. And, they did a step study meeting too. So it's like, what are you doing? Absolutely. And they always said hi, and they went out of their way to make you feel important. This one? Pfft, what a poop head. Absolutely. What a freaking poop head. And they are what toilet paper wants to not be. Shit. Collectors. But I'm just saying. Anywho, and that's where I'm coming from with the boundary aspect. Because believe me, it hurts when you get let down. But that's why trusting your higher power is everything. And boundaries are an actual thing. Just saying. Well, anywho, thanks for making this part of your recovery today. Absolutely. And thank you, God of my own understanding, for being part of my recovery. You do deserve to take up space. You do deserve to know that you are loved. Your shoes do fit just right. But it's okay to be okay. And it's hurt people, but unhurt people, unhurt people. Who do you want to be today? It's up to you. Anywho, I love you. Have a great one. Bye-bye. Aloha. Oh my goodness. Anywho, I love you.